Let's test to see if the car is gonna drive under its own power for the first ever time on the channel. Here goes DB11, let go. Hello guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the Aston Martin DB11. Today we're going to be getting this DB rat running. It's going to be cruising, or that's the plan. I've got a ton of parts that's just come and a ton more yet to come. In this episode, we're going to be cracking on with sorting out that rear suspension. In the first episode, we took delivery of this car. The rear suspension was all damaged. We done a massive repair on the subframe. Well, in this episode, we're going to see if it was all worth it, and hopefully we can get the car running by the end of it. No more talking. Let me show you the parts and we're going to start to fit them. Let go. So following the repair of the subframe in the last episode, I went ahead and picked up this complete suspension corner on the rear side. This cost £3,000. We also went ahead and picked up a replacement alloy wheel that was £1,000. And with those bits in hand, I got straight to work. First up is the lower control arm. This is held in with these giant bolts, and I just torqued them down right here, and then I moved on to the top control arm. As you can see, this bolted straight onto those tabs that we repaired, and those adjustment bars went on without a problem. Next up, I attempted to fit in the rear drive shaft, but I'm going to run into some problems with that, and I'm going to explain that later on. Obviously I didn't know at the time, so I moved on to the interior of the car as I was looking for an access panel to remove that broken suspension strut. But here comes Akil, he knew exactly where it was. I was completely way off, and that's why two heads are better than one. Now, hidden behind this carpet, we saw something that we just never expected. Have a look.
Look this screw. Look this screw here. Homemade.
Now, after having a laugh about the self-tapping screw just poking out, we managed to find the access panel to remove 3 nuts, which will then allow us to remove that broken suspension strut. Broken suspension strut removed, it was time to replace it with a like-for-like part. That literally just went back into the same position, and I went ahead and replaced the 3 nuts. And have a look at it now, we are making great progress. With all of that out of the way, Akil went ahead and fitted the rear hub, and at this point things were going nicely.
Matt, how did they have the name, the guy from YouTube? I think this guy. Matt Armstrong, huh? For everything he calls his daddy.
Yeah,
Daddy.
yeah, exactly.
What do you think, Dad? Dad is dealing with tractor and he asking for Lamborghini.
Right, moving on. With the hub in place, I went ahead and torqued down all the screws, all the nuts and bolts, and then I took this opportunity to swap out that broken brake line. But instead of upgrading it to a like-for-like part, I've actually upgraded it to a race spec part, and I'll explain a little bit about that later on. Once the female side of the hose was torqued down, all I had to do is remove the brake caliper and screw the male side of that hose into the brake caliper. I'll be bleeding these later on in the series. At this point, I found some damage that threatened to derail the entire build. Check this out. Alright guys, so it's about 3 weeks later. This build has just been headache. It's not a lot of damage, it's not a lot of work. It's just the parts are just so hard to find and they're super expensive. But we've made it in the end. Have a look. I've gone ahead and buckled down the entire suspension system. I'm just waiting for one more part for that, which is the brake disc. The genuine Aston Martin brake disc. It hasn't showed up in the posters yet, so we're still waiting for that. However, I am excited because the alloy wheel came. Like I showed you at the beginning of this video, I went ahead and put a tire on there. Now we're gonna try to get the wheel on the car, and this car should be able to drive under its own power for the first time since we got it. And yeah, I'm excited. Oh, also went ahead and got a replacement battery. I tried to charge the existing battery. I've charged it up, full charge, and then the next morning it was flat again. So I just went ahead, replaced that battery. So we're gonna fit the battery, fit the wheel, and we're gonna test to see if the car is driving. Speaking of driving, another reason why we had to wait 3 weeks is initially when I stuck the drive shaft into the diff, we tried to make sure it was engaging, and it wasn't engaging. And when we checked out, the diff had some damage. So off camera, you know what, I was so dejected. We went ahead, we got a replacement part. We went and fitted all of that, got all of that sorted. I was away for a few weeks, came back, it was all sorted. So went ahead, stuck everything in. I don't know if you can hear that, but it feels like it's engaged. So that's another thing that I need to keep an eye on, making sure that everything is working. So anyway, no more talking. Let's get all of those bits together, try to see if this car's actually gonna drive. I go. So guys, I kept it moving and I was actually gassed to see if this car was going to drive. What I'm doing is torquing down the nut for the drive shaft, and as you can see, I'm turning down the torque on my impact wrench so I don't cause any damage. Next up, I swapped out that dead battery, but even that was a task and a half. Guys, this is so tight and cramped. I do not enjoy working on this car. Normally I enjoy working on the cars. I enjoy the car, looking at it, driving it, hearing it, but I do not enjoy working on this car at all. Everything is just mega difficult. Just to take the battery out. So tight. Alright, let me put the camera down and I'll catch up with you later on. So guys, I've swapped out the battery. Let's see if it's going to start up properly. Foot on the brakes, it's turned red, it's ready to start. Have a listen to that. Super quick with the start, and it's well warmed. The car's been running, so I will be revving it. So in case any of you think that it's cold, it is not cold. So yeah, happy days. Press this button and it just comes to life. Yes, that's it. I'm happy with that. So new battery fitted, the car is all good. I went ahead and fitted that new alloy wheel, and it was finally time to see if this car was gonna drive. The next thing, however, is the all-important drive. Let's test to see if the car is gonna drive under its own power for the first ever time on the channel. Here goes DB11, let go. She's moving. Oh my God, come on. Guys, it was such a good feeling to actually feel this car moving under its own power, and it sounds amazing. Guys, so quick one. Now that we know the car is actually driving, and I'm so gassed, but now that we know the car is driving, if you remember, I replaced that rear suspension strut, and it's still coming up with this error to say that there's this issue with the system. It's been disabled. Since we've had the car, I've never diagnosed anything. I've never ran any scans or anything. So what I want to do quickly is I'm going to be using the King Bowling K8, which I use for all of my builds. And I'm just going to do a quick diagnostic scan, and hopefully we can get rid of that error, because as far as I'm aware, there should be no other suspension strut damage. And I've double checked all the wiring for that suspension strut. I plugged it in, we replaced it. Let's do a quick health scan and we'll see what comes up. So this is very interesting. When I selected Aston Martin and I selected DB11, it actually said, please use our Mercedes software. So do you remember in the first episode, I told you that the Aston Martin and Mercedes, the Dalma group, had some sort of collaboration on the DB11 and all subsequent models moving forward. Yeah, so it's actually running a Mercedes system. So I'm gonna let this do its thing, and then hopefully we can clear all of those. So I'll let you know how that goes. Guys, just to show you, if you have a look there, a lot of these faults are saying the power in the system is too low, the power supply in the system is too low, power supply in the system is too low, power supply in the system is too low. So I'll go ahead, now that I've got that new battery, the car is running fine, I'll clear all the codes, and hopefully that will get rid of my lights. So clearing, let's go. So I've cleared all the codes. The engine and the car is running fine, but I've still got the error right there. I've spoke to a few people online, and I've just made a phone call. And because that ABS sensor, we haven't got the ABS sensor in the rear left. That's the suspension that we just fitted. The active dampening system, which is responsible for telling the car if to have a soft ride, hard ride, it needs the wheel speed sensor, which is the ABS. It needs the wheel speed sensor, which is the ABS, for that function to work. So that's why that's not coming off. So that's all we can do for now. I'm still waiting for the ABS to come in the post. Once that comes, I'll fit that, and then hopefully the system should calibrate itself. If not, I'll stick it back on the diagnostics. So guys, that's it. But the car is running perfectly. And it drives. So guys, there you have it. The car is actually driving. This is a landmark moment on this build, because you know what? We kept it moving, and we went ahead and we got everything situated with this rear suspension. Have a look at the alloy wheel. We're just waiting for that brake disc in the post, so that I'm gonna strip this back down and sort all of that out. But as you saw just now, the car is moving. Speaking of brakes, I just want to show you, this is a standard type of brake line that was on the car, and one of these brake lines costs upwards of 100 quid. Seeing that it was for DB11, and I just went ahead and upgraded both brake lines on the rear to these braided types. These are performance brake lines, and they're going to be much stronger than what these were. So they're a bit overkill, but I managed to pick up 2 of these for 50 quid, and they were custom made for this build, and I've got assurances that they're going to be better than OEM on this car. Coming around, have a look at this side. You know, there was no damage on this side, so I'm happy about that. I also went ahead and swapped out this battery. I'm going to hold on to this because these batteries are quite expensive, so I'm going to see if I can get this repaired, get this working, and I'm sure this is going to come in handy in the future. But for now, if I step back, guys, this car looks amazing, sounds amazing, and we are one step closer to getting this back to its former glory. And this is where we're gonna end this episode. So if you wanna continue to see how we get on with this build and many more, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button if you enjoyed it, and this is where we're gonna head out. So like I always say, guys, the DB11 is gonna say bye today. Keep it moving, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that, why don't you check out one of my previous videos on the left? There's plenty in the playlist. And if you want to know more about the Salvage game, why don't you become a member of Salvage Nation, and I'll be there to guide you along the way. And don't forget, you can follow me on Facebook, TikTok and Instagram if you want to get an inside scoop before YouTube.